Okay, so this is what I was talking about really taking a look at what you're going to be drawing or painting. You can look for images online, but you can probably inspect something better if you have the real deal in your hand. So I'm also looking at, what's really possible in making an embed. To do the leaves too, well, I've done that before, but I also have some green leaf embeds that I've already have prepared, and I can just put those on the top of my berries that I make. So the other route is to, of course, look for these nifty silicone molds, and I've used that too, but I want strawberry slices. So the first thing I'm going to do is just chop off the top, because I have that part taken care of, and I just want to look at a cross section of a berry because they're kind of cool, and most people really don't take a close look at that, but it's kind of interesting. And I also know that basically it's a, turn it this way you can see it better, it's isosceles triangle, two long sides and a different length over there. So that's going to help me make the basic shape of my strawberries. I already know I'm going to make a smaller berry, but I just have some like plastic twine, and I'm going to wrap it around the berry I'm going to make. And I know that I'm going to need a mold that's at least that long to be able to make my strawberry. I don't want huge berries though, so I'm just taking a look and going, well, it's okay if I take about an inch off of that circumference of that berry. And I think that this mold is going to be pretty useful. And I'm going to use some orange peel, just sort of randomly mixed in the setting up glycerin soap to take care of the little seeds. Okay, so I've melted the melt and pour, sort of boring to go through that process, and now I'm going to color that, kind of eyeball that. What I just dropped in was, I really like this red from TKB Trading called Relay Race Red, and I'm pretty happy with that as it is. I think I'll make it a little darker. Just a couple drops. Then I'm going to take just a little bit of vegetable glycerin. That's probably a little less than half a teaspoon, and that's just going to help the melt and pour to be a little bit more flexible. Okay, so off to the side here, I'm cooling off my melt and pour a little bit. I've already added the fragrance. In this case, it is citrus strawberry from Nature's Garden, and it's a bit hot. I could pour it right now, but I think I can cool this project down a lot faster if I stir it out a little bit. And let's see here, the next step I'm going to do, I can add this now, and I can keep an eye on how these float in the mixture as it cools. I'm just adding a little bit of orange peel. Some particles are floating. This is when you're creating things and things dawn on you, and you know that the seeds are on the surface of the strawberry, which is what I'm creating. So actually I'm going to pour this right now. If they do settle, they're going to be right on the skin that I'm creating. So let me pour that in this mold, and I have it on a cooling rack so it cools more evenly and a little more quickly, so cold air can circulate underneath it. Okay, so as I look at this, it has set up. It doesn't have little wrinkles in the surface as I bend the silicone, and the edges pull away from the mold as well. So pull that out, and you can see that it's transparent, and I've got all my little grated orange peel like seeds in there. It's pretty pliable. It's still a little bit warm, just a little bit, and it's a little more pliable because I added the liquid vegetable glycerin. And there, if you press too hard, it can crack, so you can't make it too sharp. And now I want to kind of round out the sides. Looking at it from the side, I'm going, yeah, that's that's probably close enough to what I'm trying to do. Profile view of the berry. Okay, but now you still have this open edge, and you can't have that because we want to make a reservoir to pour some more soap into it. Okay, so I have my same batch of melt and pour that I've had for the whole project so far. I'm going to pour that back in the mold. Here's that almost completed column that I bent, and I'm going to put it right upside down like that and let that cool. Okay, so I'll be back when this solidifies. So just kind of getting my fingers up underneath there, and you can see that now I have a sealed reservoir for pouring some soap. Okay, so I trimmed it, but there's still this little overhang right here. You can see it if I line it up like that. And I don't really want that, so I'm going to use my vegetable peeler and just trim it down. Don't go overboard because you can cut into what you worked so hard to get in the first place. Basically what I want to do is get a little white, almost clear V that goes into the strawberry, this little pit here. And how I'm doing that is I've made a little melt and pour, looks like a little iceberg that goes down this upside down cylinder. Okay, so there's something I did in this mold. I don't want to fill up the whole mold with what I have to do next, so I just made a little reservoir with some freezer paper. You'll get the idea. And I added a little bit more of my fragrance to some white, but keeping it a little translucent. And I'm just going to pour this to seal in that little embed that I put inside the tube of soap. What I'm trying to do is get that little triangular piece of soap that I put inside that to adhere, but I also want this layer to simulate this lighter portion on the top of the strawberry. So I'm going to let that set up and I'll be right back. And in the meantime, I am stirring down this melt and pour. It's 146 now. I want it around 125. That way it still can be poured, but it's not going to melt the other soap. Okay, so I just pulled the strawberry cylinder, that's what I'll call it, out of the mold. I want to show you, this is actually good. That soap that I poured in after it didn't stick to the side, and that's because it didn't need to adhere. I didn't want it to adhere. If you really want it to adhere, you should spray some alcohol in it between the layers. So I always have some alcohol there. And I'm ready to show you that I have this yogurt container that I'm going to set this into. And what I do is I pour some of this solidifying melt and pour in it. Not very much. And basically what I want to do is set this in here so it seals the bottom. Okay, what I decided to do while I was waiting for that to solidify is I got some white melt and pour, and I'm going to attempt a swirl, and it's harder to do a swirl with melt and pour, but I'm going to give it a shot just to make the inside a little more interesting. So I'm going to pour that into, let's see if you can see here, I'm going to pour that into my red. There are different temperatures too. I want the white to be a little cooler. And that's about as much as I'm going to stir it. I am going to spray the inside of this the best I can. The more you can do that, the better it'll stick together. And I'm going to just pour this in there. Okay, and then I'm going to just let that solidify overnight. So you got to do this probably the day before so that you can work with it. It's a pretty involved process, but I have fun with it. Maybe you will too. It's very difficult to make videos with the melt and pour just because there's too much to attend to. But okay, so I'm going to slice up the strawberry embed that I made, but I thought I'd just show you the whole unmolding process, and so some of it gets just left behind, and that was just the soap that I poured in to the bottom of this yogurt container that I used to stand it up. So that's fine right there. And usually I wouldn't cut this until I'm ready to use it, but I thought I'd show you this. So that's going to be my that swirl came out pretty well. I used sort of in the pot swirl with melt and pour, which I've tried before, but this has been more effective. And you know, I'm going for not so much real life, although I looked at a real strawberry to put this together, but something that would look attractive in as an embed on top of cold processed soap. And I'm going to be putting my green leaves that I made with melt and pour also on top to fill out the top a little bit. So let me do one cut. Actually, I can still use this piece. Maybe another one. I don't use very much. It'll make this go a long way. And it's a little bit more interesting, I think, than your typical you know, silicone mold strawberries. Just clean up the sharp corner with vegetable peeler, and it adds this little bevel that really looks nice. So that's basically how I make these embeds. The other thing that I can do, well, I can just actually do that. I can make a little indent here, and then I can put my my leaf embeds kind of sprouting from that as if it was a stem. And I'm going to show you some cold processed soap that I'm going to put a similarly made embed on the top of. So I'm getting ready to do that. Here's my flat mold, and I'll be ready to go once I mix up my batter. So there you go.